Cloud. Okay, we're recording. There we go. Hi, Karen. Welcome. So yeah, we're going to talk about this idea of becoming human again. And as I was saying, as COVID-19 started to happen and, lockdown started to happen and the world came to this, kind of screeched to a halt a lot. When we started this gathering, this Satsang, we were really tuning into, how out of balance or how out of rhythm with the natural world our lifestyle has become, just our world has become, flying at, fast speeds around the world, going, multiple jobs, multiple, hobbies, the desire to really like accomplish and ingest information and, really this emphasis that our world has put on doing. And so I've been really sitting with and just feeling so called back to what it means to be a human being, not a human doing. And I was joking with Meg about it. Like, I've read these things about being a human. I've heard about them in distant lands and read about them from my ancestors and, the indigenous people of this world. But, when in the past we, woke up with the sounds of nature, when we went to bed with the sun, when we grew our food in our yard and harvested ourselves and tended to it and cooked together and sang songs and made love and were deeply present with one another, that is the essence of being human, connecting to our human nature. There was, a time when we departed and as humans from being of nature and started to begin to conquer nature, and reign over nature. And my intention for this call is not so much to go into the how it happened and what happened and why it happened, but really, in my experience, and Meg and I have talked about this so much, the antidote to this disconnection, the antidote to turning away from our human nature is to simply, connect back to it, to really tune into how we are of nature, in what ways, simply with inquiring into ourselves that we can. It's so beautiful in the yoga tradition, or rather in the tradition of Ayurveda, which some of you may know, which is, some people call it the sister science to yoga, or it's basically the ancient healing modality, the medical system of India. And it is a sister science to yoga, and that Ayurveda is really all about the maintenance of and the extension of the preservation of life force, right? So prana, the life force that exists within each and every one of us, that is the underlying animating current of the whole world. And Ayurveda says that any disease, dis-ease, right? A space where we feel dis-ease, where we don't feel at ease, we don't feel comfortable. There's some sort of, misalignment, rub, that the very essence of it, that the root of all disease, the root of all imbalance begins with a disconnection from our source. And so I, connect with the source, and I think all can, connect to source however feels authentic to us. And I'll just give some of the language around the way I connect to source, which is, like I said before, the prana, or another word for it is Shakti, is a type of prana. It is the energy that is the animating, generative, force behind all of life. That this force is the underlying current of everything in the world. And that this source is conscious, is aware, that the very essence of source, the very essence of, and another word for source, in my understanding of it, is nature. You know, that there is an inherent wisdom, an inherent consciousness in nature. And that this inherent consciousness in nature is also our inherent consciousness in our nature. And when we turn our attention, as we have so much in our society and in our world, outward, like we are actually hardwired pretty much from the time of our birth now to, you know, like look and see outward. I mean, it's what we do when we come into the world and become human, right? Like you see a little baby come into this world and their eyes begin to open, and everything is oriented into digesting and assimilating and taking in the stimulus of the outer world as a way to be able to know ourselves. And so part of you know, one of the other things my teacher says is that, you know, what we're here to do when we are in a state of imbalance, when we're out of balance, is that we're working to actually disrupt the ordinary flow of consciousness. So if our ordinary flow of consciousness is towards the outer world, right? What happens when we actually start to disrupt that ordinary flow of consciousness and turn our awareness, turn consciousness back on itself? You know, this is what we do when we sit in silence, when we sit in meditation, we close our eyes and we turn inward. I also believe, very much so, that this is what we do when we allow ourselves to be completely present with something going on around us. And this is what in the tantric yoga tradition that our lineage comes from, there's many you can call them esoteric practices, or I think they're just awareness cultivation practices that help to train our awareness, do like awareness cultivation practices that help us train that if our outgoing natural flow of awareness as human beings is to look outward and to learn to interface in the world around us, how can we actually, you know, train and practice our capacity for seeing through these eyes, seeing through the organs, the sensory organs of our eyes, the sensory organs of our hands, our nose, our skin? How can we actually train these tools of ours, if you will, these senses of ours, to sync up with this greater flow of consciousness, to be aligned with and in tune with this awareness, this wisdom, this life force that is in everything? And so there are practices that invite you to just eat in silence and eat one thing at a time. And you smell that thing, you look at that thing, you taste it, you close your eyes, and you actually put all of your senses, right? You take all of the faculties of your awareness into this experience. We've done some of these before for those of you who have studied with Meg and I in person, when we do co-listening practices, and you practice sitting in front of another person. We have no devices, we have nowhere else to be, and we practice completely hearing them, receiving them, listening to them, taking in what they're saying with every part of us. True presence. We practice when we're cleaning the dishes, doing the dishes with full awareness and just full presence. Because there's an understanding in these traditions that consciousness, right? So if we're saying that the essence of the universe, the essence of this world, and therefore the essence of us, because we are of this world, is consciousness, or is awareness. That there's an underlying wisdom. Like you all know this. You've felt this before when you get on your mat. Maybe you do a yoga practice and you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna listen to my body. I'm just gonna like close my eyes and follow my breath. Or those of you who have children and you watch a child just inherently have this wisdom within them, how to be able to, know how to do something. You can plant a seed and watch a flower, a piece of food begin to grow, a flower begin to grow. That there's this inherent wisdom in everything. And that wisdom, that consciousness itself is healing. So all this to be said is that when we are conscious, or you could say when you are aware, or you can say when we are present, fully present with something, that when we are fully present with something, this is an act of true healing. That this is an act of, if we go by this definition that I said earlier, of any disease, and I step into this conversation, we step into this conversation together of disease as being, I think it's safe to say that we see that our world, our culture, our society, our humanity is sick. We're not, doomed, but we are not connected. We're all seeking. You've written, we've talked. We're seeking, this experience of connection, this experience of healing and of wholeness. And we can get so into the ethers and so complex again about how we need to gain all this information to understand how to heal. Or we can also understand that at the very essence of everything is awareness, and awareness itself heals. So if we can do these practices, it's like anywhere out in your day. And I would love to open at the end of the call to just hear, what do you do, or what would you like to start to do in your daily life, even just for the next week, to infuse more awareness into your life, infuse more presence into your life, as an effort of self-healing, as an effort of healing in our own selves, any experience of disease, any experience of disconnection from source. And it's been my experience, and I've done this work in so many different realms. I've worked with my teacher, Sally Kempton, for years, working with the archetypes, the goddess archetypes in the yoga tradition. And you actually do practices of awareness, practices of seeing things in particular ways as a way to cultivate that energy of consciousness. I'll give an example because that sounds kind of obscure. Is I just moved into a new house. I'm basically living in a construction site, and it can become so overwhelming. Or I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to clean everything. And I'm going to actually enjoy cleaning. And you can turn your awareness on from either oh, I'm so frustrated, I don't want to do this. Or, okay, cleaning is actually going to be this act of, in the yoga tradition, we have the yamas and the niyamas, and one of them is saucha. Some of you may know this from your study. And saucha is the practice of purity, of purifying our space. In the goddess archetypes, Lakshmi, who is the energy of wealth and abundance, really represents clean, clear spaces. So actually, very much on purpose, changed my attention to go, okay, I am going to clean all the dust off of this little space in this room. And I'm going to have all of my presence to this, as opposed to oh my God, this stuff, and I got to clean all this, and it's so overwhelming, just shove it in the closet. Which there's time for that sometimes too, right? But actually going, I'm taking the attention that I'm going to be like totally present with this. And I'm going to allow myself to get joy and allow myself to feel fulfillment from what it feels like to clean this space out. We can do that with cleaning the dishes. We can do that with turning off all of our devices and listening to a piece of music or reading a book or being present with one another. And so the point is that you have infinite resources inside of you. You know how to do this already. But when we just take our attention wholly towards something, this is our great and profound gesture of returning back to our most natural, most fundamental state, most connected state. And so I want to invite us now to do this in a meditation practice. Meditation / contemplation practice. So have your notebooks nearby, if you have a notebook and you're gonna, because what we'll do is we'll close our eyes, we'll meditate, we'll do a little practice, and I'll give you a little journal prompt, and then we'll keep our eyes and close and go back into meditation. So come into a comfortable upright seat. And just find where you can be exerting the least amount of effort. So sit high enough up on something, if you're sitting on the floor, that your spine is tall, that you feel that you can actually keep your spine lifted and elevated without too much effort. If for you that means you're leaning back into a chair or against a wall, by all means, do that. And I'm going to take you through a series of instructions, helping to place your attention and cultivate your attention and be really present with the body and present with the senses. So take your awareness, you can let your hands rest wherever feels good and natural. Just go with what feels natural. Do they rest in your lap? Are they on your thighs with the palms up or down? Just what feels natural for you. And then no need to manipulate or control your breathing. Just let your breath flow naturally. And feel your hips heavy into the earth or the cushion, chair beneath your seat. Let your hips get heavy with gravity. Your hips get pulled and anchored towards the earth. And from that heavy, steady base, feel your spine like the trunk of a slender birch tree. Feel your spine elongate up from the base through the center of your body, reaching and growing and lengthening towards the sky. And as the crown of your head reaches towards the sky, simultaneously allow your shoulders to slide down away from your ears. Feel the skin of your shoulders float down your back. See if you can experience your collarbones, the front of your chest, upper chest, lifting and widening softly. And let your arm bones from your shoulders naturally hang down out of the shoulder socket towards the elbow as your hands rest wherever they do. Take all of your awareness now to both thumbs. It's all your attention in your thumbs. Feel pulsing, perhaps throbbing awareness present in your thumbs. And then take your awareness to both first fingers. Awareness rests in your pointer fingers. Everything else relaxes. Awareness in your middle fingers. All of your attention, all of your awareness rests in the middle fingers. Awareness to both ring fingers. Feel all of your attention, all of your presence residing in both ring fingers. Heavy, alive with prana. Awareness to your little fingers. Little fingers. All of your attention focuses there. Now feel the whole hand alive, pulsing with prana. Now draw your awareness to your belly. No need to push or pull the breath. Just experience your breath on the inhale, making your belly rise and expand. Your exhale, belly falls towards the spine. Let yourself enjoy the experience of being breathed. life force coming in through your nose or your mouth if you're breathing through your mouth, and filling your whole body, and life force moving out of your body and back out into the space around you as you exhale. Experience the sensations of breathing. Notice the way the breath comes in and how it moves your body from the inside out. How every cell of your being is alive with prana, with life force. Notice how the simple act of placing your attention on breathing, on life force moving through you, may begin to drop you into an experience of your wholeness. And there's nowhere to go, nothing to do but be. To bear witness through experience this miraculous feat of being in this body, having this mind, having this heart, being alive in every cell. Keeping your attention, your awareness, at least one part of the thread of your awareness, attuned to prana, to life force moving through you in the form of breath. Also now notice the beat of your heart. The beat of your heart. The inherent miraculous wisdom of your heart sustaining you, holding you, generating blood and oxygen to all of you. You might feel a sense of gratitude for this inherent wisdom, this miraculous source of presence, of life. And see if you can even tune your awareness to the sense of blood and plasma flowing through your veins. It's not to say that you may be able to have a sense that you actually can feel that. If that feels a little obscure or abstract to you, even just visualize or imagine blood flowing through your veins. Information, wisdom, healing, life force moving through you in the form of blood, of plasma. Incredible act of being human, embodiment. And staying attuned to these sensory organs, to this connection with your prana, your life force, nature flowing through you. I invite you to contemplate this idea. In what ways on a daily basis do you tend to bypass or skip over the inherent natural rhythm or wisdom of your own nature? What does that look like for you? How does that show up for you? Where you perhaps allow the mind to run or an outward agenda to take hold versus listening and moving from a place of inherent wisdom. If that contemplation doesn't churn up something for you, I invite you to either or also ask yourself the question of, what does it feel like in my being when I am disconnected from this life force? How does it show up for you? What does it feel like? And you can either just stay with your eyes closed, contemplating that, or if you'd like to, take a few moments to write that down, note something down in your journal or your notepad that you have with you today, if you have one. In what ways do we override our nature? Do we kind of dominate our nature, catapulting us into a state of doing versus being? And what does it feel like when you turn away from or disconnect from this underlying inherent wisdom of your own true humanity, your own true life force? How does that feel in your body? What does it feel like in your mind? How does it show up in the ways that you act in the world, act with others, act with yourself, decisions that you make? And the last piece to contemplate is, what would you like to do and what are you willing to commit to right now, just over the next week? Just choose one thing. We can take some time after this to share them, to give each other ideas. What's one awareness, presence, cultivation practice that you can do, whether it be eating your food mindfully, sitting down for 5 minutes a couple times throughout the day and just breathing, taking a mudra over the heart. There's so many other things. But what does it look like for you to attune to your human nature, attune to your life force? Keep it simple, super, super, super simple. The more complex we make things, the more complicated, the more effort it takes. And really And we drop back into and rest back into the underlying current of life force. Our personal effort gets to relax and dissolve, and we're held by something much greater. And it's in that holding, in that return back to that connection, that presence, where we heal. We find ease instead of dis-ease. Let's take another minute to finish writing. If you're writing, you're sitting with your eyes closed still, stay in that space, internal, connected. Continuing to draw your attention back to this experience of breath, the experience of your heartbeat. As you're ready, keeping yourself connected and attuned inward. My meditation teacher says that, resting our awareness inward, even while we open our eyes and commune with the world, is how we tether ourselves to this inner support. So feel yourself still aware, still attuned, still present. This inner quietude as you gently allow your eyes to open. So it feels so nice to sit with all of you. Thank you for that. Whether it's a practice that you have regularly and it's easy for you to sit that long, or it's kind of maybe pushing your edges a little bit to sit for that long. Thank you, for doing this work and doing this practice. It's, feels so nice to just take the space to be. It feels so healing. So I'd like to open the space up for about 10 minutes to share. And if you're on video and you want to raise your hand to speak, we've got two, slide back and forth to see you all. Or on the participants pad, you can see that there's a little place for you to raise your hand. And I can scroll through here if someone wants to raise their hand, or just give me a wave. I'd like to hear specifically, what did that practice feel like to you? What does that experience of presencing, if you want to use it like that, feel like to you? And what is something that you can share any of the pieces really that we journaled, how do you notice, and what is a kind of barometer for you of when you've moved away from that in your daily life, and or also what is something that you are wanting to commit to for this next week of anchoring yourself back into this state. Anyone? Karin, let me unmute you. Karin and Trey, I see you too. So we'll go Karin first, and then Trey. There you are, Karin, you're unmuted.
Hey, first I want to say thank you so much. This was so, so beautiful. And what it does to me is makes me realize like there's so much going on in my life right now, and I'm not taking every day the time to do this. And it immediately anchors me it just anchors, I feel grounded. And I know that I step away when I worry too much, when I go into these whole scenes of worry, thinking about everything that can go wrong, because then I'm starting to do things, because then I do, because then I'm somehow in control, even though, you never, I think if I would allow more things just to be, I would be in a much better place. So I decided I'm gonna take my pranayama daily again. And because that's really when I can get myself into this state.
Karin, what does your pranayama practice look like for you, if you don't mind sharing with us?
Often it's just breath awareness. Just the fact to be with the breath and to see how it is. And I really body scan. I really try to feel where the breath gets stuck, where it's flowing, if I'm able to release. And then I realize I am able to release just by breathing, just by the regular breathing. But I did start to teach throughout the pandemic breathwork classes. So I combine meditation and some very simple breathwork. A lot of people have never done it. So I'm kind of forcing myself to, at least a few times a week, to do a bit more extensive practice. So either it's like a box breath. Often it's like I like to work with the exhale, just to extend the exhale. Mm-hmm. It immediately affects all your systems and your state of being.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I want to just call out there. Yes, keep it simple. It's like you said, just breath awareness. It's so profound. We do not have to get into all these fancy schmancy different things. We have enough going on. It's so profound to tune into, like you expressed, like life force moving through you and just noticing, like we said, consciousness, that I said in the beginning, consciousness itself is healing. So simply by becoming conscious of your breathing, and oh, I'm having a hard time exhaling, or oh, look, I'm holding my breath in a little bit, or oh, my mind is busy. Just literally becoming conscious of something gives it a place and allows things to begin to settle. So thank you so much. And thank you for your articulation also around this desire to want to be in control in some way. And so we start doing as a way to think that we're going to ground the thing and it just doesn't, it's not how it works. It doesn't happen. We just start to get ourselves more spinning, So thank you for that articulation. It's always so nice to hear you, Karin, and I'm so glad to hear your teaching and teaching pranayama and teaching meditation. These are just such important practices for all of us. So thank you for the work you're doing there.
Likewise, thank you for doing this.
Awesome. Okay, Trey. Oops, unmute you. Unmute. There you go.
Hear me?
There you are.
Awesome. That practice for me was awesome. That today, I feel like I gained a piece of knowledge that I can stack on top of some other knowledge that I've been incorporate in my life. A good songwriter friend of mine told me once that there's no such thing as writer's block, because the song always gets written, and that feeling is always there. There's only time and whatever you're dealing with. And that piece of information, I was like, all right, when I don't feel like it, all right, let me ask myself some questions to try to release something that's blocking me from whatever it is. But along with that, this practice, now that I realize prana is always in my hands, when I'm not doing things or when I'm not productive, it's just me. That's whether it's, of course, we all deal with real life things that we have to take care of, but those times when you're at home or just hours or days have gone by and you really haven't been productive, it's really, the prana is always there. So a lot of times it's just me in my head. Me personally, practicing wise though, I have to get back to meditation more. I'm always on my mat, but meditation, and with that, honoring my hands, because when I wash dishes and stuff like that, I'm always thinking about something or doing mindless things. I'm always thinking, but when I say honor my hands, I'm going to consciously start looking at my hands, what I'm doing, just to bring that awareness to what I'm doing. So thank you for that practice. This was awesome for me today. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you, Trey. And yeah, our hands, I mean, what miraculous tools that we have, the way that we touch, the way that we interface, the way that we receive the world, you know, what a beautiful gesture to place your awareness. And that meditation piece is also from a, you know, it's like so many of these practices in the tantric tradition are so simple. That's one of them, is literally just be aware of your thumbs, be aware of your fingers, be aware of your ring fingers. You know, it doesn't have to be, it's just simple, but so profound. So beautiful, being mindful of the way you're placing your hands and using your hands. And, you know, my partner has a really beautiful indigenous teacher who just always like, oh gosh, all you Westerners, all you don't really just throw things around and put things down and aren't even aware about the way you touch things. Be so mindful of the way you touch the earth, of the way you walk the earth, of the way you use your hands on your own body, when you touch one another, when you touch your food, you know. So thank you. That's a beautiful, beautiful practice. Yeah. Would anyone else like to either raise your little blue hand or you scroll back? Jen, there you are. Let me unmute you. There you are. You're unmuted. Hi.
Something interesting that came up for me is I'm noticing the shift that happens just like acceptance wise through presence, and the power and beauty of that, like love ultimately. And I notice what takes me out, or something that's just getting like really clear lately, is this like shame and guilt I carry around. And I heard something today that said, shame does not result in healing. And it's really beautiful to have the thread of the opposite, that presence ultimately is like the healing, and like inherent is that in that is relationship and like connection, and like really how simple it is, where that healing comes from. So yeah, and so for me, I just thought about like, I've been feeling a bit disconnected from nature lately because I just moved, and I used to live right like in the redwoods, so it was really easy for me to just walk outside and feel like epically connected to nature. And I'm not far, but it's a little bit more effort for me to get into nature, but I can easily just walk out my door and sit in the grass. And so I'm committing to just walking out my door and sitting in the grass at least for 5 minutes twice a day.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know shame. It's such a big, it could be a whole many days call on that, right? This kind of like, oh, if we punish ourselves in some way through the experience of shame, somehow that's how I'll heal it, you know? And it's one of the things that I am so grateful for, the Eastern traditions of you can use the word therapy, even though it sounds kind of clinical to me, but just therapy as a way of, you know, in the Eastern world, of returning to wholeness, being so much that we don't actually have to like understand, like get in our heads all about like why and how and what, you know, how many counts and how many breaths and why did this happen? Was it my mom and was it my dad and where does it come from? But really it's like we can actually just, I say just, which is such a hard word to use in the sense of like, you know, like it's belittling it, but we can be present, and presence literally heals it. It's not, oh, it, like this state that we get to of, like you said, like that experience of love, that experience of wholeness. You know, when we're working with the capacity of presence as that healing quality, yeah, if we have to sit and be present with a deep experience of grief, or sit and be present with a deep experience of shame, or a deep experience of pain or sadness or loss, it's not necessarily by any means going to be comfortable. It could be very, very, very painful, but still sitting and being with it versus turning away and running around. And sometimes it's so painful we don't want to face something, so we turn away and, you know, add all these other things to our plates. But the profound act of actually being still and being present with something is going to bring us through that pain, through whatever that process is. And this is where, you know, Meg and I always say, it's like we're not doing our jobs well if people keep meeting us. But, you know, we all want to come here, of course, together, because we all need each other. We don't exist, you know, without one another. And yet, you know how to work through whatever it is that you're working through, you know. It's being present with it, you know, and just these practices that we talk about, being present with breath, being present with our body, being present with our hands, sitting in nature, you know, inviting us into this stillness as humans, allowing us to actually process, you know, by being with this great gift that we have been bestowed with us as humans, the gift of being awake, of being aware. You know, so turning back to our awareness is that which is most healing. So thank you so much for sharing, Jennifer. Yeah. So good to be with all of you. Sarah, your baby's so cute. There we go. Hi, little one. Can we say hi for a second? I'm going to unmute you. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, I'm Tom.
What's the little one's name?
Oliver.
So cute.
Yeah. Oh, I think he's a little camera shy.
He's very camera shy. Yes. Yeah.
Be present with right here, this weird screen in front of us, you know.
What's that? What's that?
So good to see you guys here. Thank you all of you.
Thank you.
For your time. And Carolyn, I saw your little note. Thank you for writing. I'm so glad you had that deep experience of the practice. Charlotte, you too. So thank you for being with me today, all of you. And you know, I look forward to even tuning in next week and just touching base back into here of, you know, what it felt like you know, to do whatever practice you're choosing to do for this week. And I really invite everyone, like, just keep it simple, like one thing, and keep it simple. Otherwise you'll forget. I mean, you're going to forget this one thing a million times too. You're gonna be like, oh, I'm being aware of my hands. And then, you know, like 25 million times a day, you're gonna be like, I'm not being aware of my hands, you know? So it's like, I'm gonna be aware of breathing while I'm walking, you know, and then a million times you're gonna forget to do that. And so just really be sweet with yourself. Think of one thing and let it be this, like, this dance. Let yourself laugh at yourself. Let yourself kind of just be like, oh my gosh, how many times can I say I'm going to be present, and then like go off elsewhere, and know that like that is the process of it. You know, that is the process of, like we said at the beginning, kind of changing the normal flow of consciousness. Just change the normal flow of consciousness as a way to heal and return back to whole, and to build this strength and this relationship with self. So we'll continue becoming human together all over again, sending you all so much love. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you next week. Meg will be back with us next week. And if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to write. Okay. Sending much love. Take care. Enjoy wherever you are. Enjoy your breath. Enjoy the nature. Enjoy one another. Enjoy your loved ones. Okay. Ciao. Have a beautiful day.